5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, ignition, liftoff.
Welcome back. Thank you for joining us on the GHT Overland Podcast. This is where you get the greatest interviews and insights from overland travelers around the globe, learning from their stories and experiences as we interview overlanders from places like Australia, Africa, the Americas, Pakistan, and the UK. You will learn the basics to the advanced in overlanding, so buckle up and get ready for more adventure. I'm Chris.
And I'm Lisa. This is part 2 with Brandon from On the Bus podcast, overlanding with a school bus from Utah to Chile as they documented stories of the people they met along the way, sharing unique stories of people stretching what we consider normal.
Last week, we learned how Brandon funded their overland trip, a little about being a digital nomad as an overlander, along with their navigation methods, and of course, much more.
This week, you will want to buckle up as we cover border crossings, how they navigated the trampoline of death, the most dangerous road in Colombia.
Like I said, you want a 5-point harness for this episode. Are you ready?
Oh, I'm ready.
Okay, let's jump back into the interview with Brandon from On the Bus podcast. Okay, so border crossings, let's talk about that a little bit. What tips would you give our listeners in crossing international borders and preparing for them?
This is very important, especially if you have a very, very light and white complexion, I'd say,
Okay.
when you're crossing borders. I think the bus for us was, I think it was the biggest and strongest thing that maybe in the entire continent of South America, that no one really wanted to mess with our vehicle. No one was going to do anything to it, even if we were at a border, if we were parking somewhere. So the size of your vehicle is a deterrence, I think, to people harming it, causing any problems to it. Going to the border, you want to have, all your paperwork done. You want to research ahead of time. Again, iOverland is a great thing of what was needed, what was the experience someone had one day before, 12 months before, because you never know what is going to happen, especially if you're just in a regular four-door sedan or four-door, 4x4 vehicle. You want to make sure you have all your I's dotted, T's crossed before you handle those things. So doing your research beforehand, making sure everything's covered. And I think my number one thing was just always speaking English when I understood Spanish and I knew the person was asking for something on the extreme end. So okay. I think if I can give you a perfect example, I knew we were trying to get pulled for a bribe. We got pulled over in one location. And the gentleman was asking for 80,000 pesos. He wanted 80,000 pesos. He needed 80,000 pesos. I knew he was asking for a bribe, and I just completely replied back to him in English. Didn't say I understood anything. Yeah, all right, 80,000. Yeah. Just in my head, smiling and grinning. And I think there's a time for people to speak English and to really, really run your English language for you. Definitely save you time, money, and getting you through to places.
Okay. Any other tips on that? That's a good one, Brandon. The paying bribes or not paying bribes would obviously be the preference. Any other tips there? And for people that have not done a trip like this, knowing when somebody's trying to get a bribe out of them and how to really get around that and avoid paying those?
Again, it's really tough, and I think we were fortunate not to have a gun pulled on us, like I've heard some travelers say, or, and someone says, hey, give me everything you got. We didn't run into any issues like that. We had that one police incident, but besides that, or you'd be, like you said, like at a border or customs, and they'd say, okay, it's going to cost you this much. And you're like, well, why was it going to cost this much? Show me why it's going to cost this much. I think it's much more difficult, and certain people, if it's a police officer, are not going to want to deal with a foreigner getting arrested or a foreigner, getting shot or harmed at all, because that's only going to bring more strife and more problems for, a local area or local municipality. So, if it's a small crimes, and somebody, looks like they had nothing to lose, I would completely give away, whatever this gentleman, with a knife or a gun in a dark neighborhood is gonna take away. But if it's somebody, with a uniform, if it's somebody who works, for a country, I mean, you shouldn't have to pay. You should definitely know the rules and know what's going to happen to you.
Okay, those are really good points. What about visas? How did everyone on the team obtain visas, and any tips you've got for making sure that all that paperwork's in order?
Yeah, let me throw you one more too about that border crossing. They take a long time, especially if if there is a refugee crisis or a migrant crisis going on. I think when we went from Colombia into Ecuador, there were 5 busloads of Venezuelans, trying to escape and trying to get asylum in the next country. So it's just, it was, breaks your heart. But I mean, we were there for 12 to 16 hours trying to just get through that day. So, again, it's, doing your research. Like, hey.
Did you plan for like a full day each time you did a border crossing, or was it just simply based on the research you did on iOverlander?
It'd be after that one, our first one, we were like, okay, we're going to plan for a day.
Okay.
But I mean, once we got to Ecuador to Peru, it was 20 minutes.
Then it went pretty quick.
It really depended on, time of day, weekend. Again, Colombia, really taking in a lot of Venezuelans. I mean, that's a place, again, researching, okay, there's something going on in Nicaragua and Guatemala right now. Okay, well, let me see what's going on. Am I going to cross this border? How long is it going to take me to know and worry about when I move between those lines?
So how did everyone on the team obtain their visas, and any tips you've got there for listeners and making sure that they've got that paperwork all lined up and ready to go?
Mm-hmm. Like I said, I tell everybody, it's really easy to get those things when you are places. The world's a very, very big connected place. If you need, someone to send you some paperwork that you don't have, that's all the way back up in the U.S. or whatever country you're from, DHL is just a shipment away. And that can get there, to a day or 5 days. So never panic that, you're missing something or you need something. There's always a way out. You just got to be patient, and you got to be always inventive and creative. But we're already driving a vehicle around the world. You guys can do it. Number 2. I mean, most of the countries in South America, again, you want to be doing the research depending on the country. I'm a U.S. citizen, so I was good on visas. Brazil and Bolivia, I think, are 2 countries you're going to need visas for. I had previously been to Bolivia, so I was good on Bolivia. It's a 10-year visa. The rest of the team, it was once we were in Cusco, because it's one of the last destinations, in Puno, and before we crossed over Lake Titicaca, it was, getting the visa, which, again, it took a few hours. You get some square photos for yourself. You get the $160. Do some research on why it's $160. I'll tell you guys that, so you understand why people want to pay money, why countries might be of a little grief against the United States government, and vice versa. And but it's usually not going to be a hassle and problem. We didn't really drive through Central America, but South America, as a U.S. citizen, and I mean, even if you're like a Canadian citizen, I think you might not even need a visa at all in some places. So just doing your homework beforehand, knowing your vaccines, that's going to be a huge thing as well. Because, I mean, luckily one of our guests who came down and stayed with us for 6 weeks, he didn't have his yellow fever vaccine card, but, that day at the border of Bolivia, they weren't asking for yellow fever vaccine cards. So.
Oh, well, that worked out.
Well, here's my other thing too. Know what vehicle you can bring into the country. You are not allowed to import an American school bus or a bus into any of these places. We, however, were able to.
Really? Why is that?
So I think it's on smog and emissions. And a lot of these countries, depending on the age of the vehicle, they do not want, vehicles before a certain time to be brought into their country now. So, if it's before 2005, some countries it's 2011, they don't want it coming in. So again, you really don't know that small little piece of information. I'm at the border, and it's like, oh, sorry, you can't bring this bus in. And again, after doing this a few times, you just start smiling. You're like, no, listen, I need to bring this bus in, And then you go through, listen, we're only going to be in transit. We're not declaring the vehicle, declaring your vehicle, or just asking for a transit pass, which will get you through 30 to 90 days most of the time. And then once you do that 30 to 90 day pass, you can renew that usually and get a new renewal on that thing. So you're never declaring the vehicle, and that will help you import it into the country, or not actually ever importing it, but getting permission to drive through. It's called driving in transit.
Oh, that's a really good tip. Okay, so you get to the border, and all of a sudden it's a big surprise that your vehicle is too old to get in there. You're going to want to know that information.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't think anybody else had an American school bus either. We didn't really see any, and we took this thing to some remote places. It was interesting watching people just like look under the vehicle, or to see, 4 white guys in rainbow ponchos get out some days, and like, how long are you guys here? Just get out as soon as possible.
That's great. That's awesome. Hey, you touched on it a little bit, the managing your internet needs. So you're doing a podcast, you're doing a lot of things on the road. How did you do that? Any tips on being able to gain access to the outside world and gaining Wi-Fi or internet connection?
Absolutely. It's it was a struggle, but for us it worked out great because we all 4 of us have experience in co-working spaces. I think all your digital nomaders should know that a co-working space is just a Google search away. And whatever city you go to now, or, you can't find one, we know the second best thing for that is a Starbucks coffee shop. So you can walk into a Starbucks coffee shop. You're going to have Wi-Fi. It might not be the greatest, but you're going to be able to upload, connect. You might be drinking 2 or 3 coffees, not just one. You're going to be going through 2 or 3 by the time you get out of that shop with the upload speeds. But you're going to get it done. And you're going to, again, when we had to do the videos, it took an extra amount of time, but we also used a Sky Pass. So we had a little 3G mobile hotspot. We paid about $10 a day for unlimited Wi-Fi. 3G was just for the first 500 megabytes or 1 gigabyte. But there's several passes you can use. In a lot of these countries, buying a SIM card, and I think the phone data plans are they're cheaper in Asia. They were about even with U.S. prices, I think, in South and Latin America. So, picking up one of those is great. Again, searching for the digital co-working space or coffee shop. And we were able to get that job done and get these shows out, on a weekly or sometimes bi-weekly basis. And then also upload our video, our documentary that's on YouTube and the other segments.
Okay, good. Hey, tell us a little bit about that, the show you're producing. Give our listeners a little better inside view on what that is and where they can find it.
Absolutely. It's On the Bus Podcast. Anywhere you listen to podcasts, I'm sure anybody who's listened to GHT Overland, it's all across the web. You're going to find our show on Spotify, it's iHeartMedia, to iTunes, SoundCloud, Google Play, Google Podcasts. By the way, guys, Google has their own podcast app, and Overcast, you name the small ones, we're all on there. And we have conversations with outliers, early adopters, all across the space, like I mentioned before. And we wanted to expand the way we cover our guests. So we really expanded into a video coverage. So those things would be called Off the Bus Adventures. And while we're in South America, we didn't just expand the way we cover our guests, but we really did some kind of journalistic pieces. Yeah, we got access to a cocaine production house outside of Cali, Colombia. But this fuels civil wars down in Latin America. So we really wanted to get, a grasp of, we're always interested, curious. So on the bus, we're going to be tackling interesting things that are going on, interesting questions that people aren't asking, and finding out what people actually think about issues and topics. Okay.
And they're going to be able to find that on YouTube. Where is it on YouTube? Just on the or Off the Bus?
Oh, it'll still be On the Bus Podcast. And that Off the Bus Adventure is a mini segment we have. And then the Save the Dina tour is going to be the mini series documenting our trip and our movement. I think that would be a great area for your guests to see what it is to get this bus to cross a border, to ship it over a barge over Lake Titicaca. We put the bus on a piece of plywood basically, and we drifted it across Lake Titicaca.
Oh, that's fascinating. Okay, great. So check it out on YouTube, On the Bus Podcast, and tell us, Brandon, what are 2 or 3 top destinations that you went to, and what made those so special for you?
Oh. I had been to Peru and Bolivia and Chile before I went back on this trip. So, there were, for me, it ended up being a few places where I wanted to take this bus. I think number one, just from its name, was the Trampoline of Death.
Oh, boy.
It's it means everything it says it is. It's a road from Mocoa, Colombia, all the way to Popayan, or all the way to Pasto. It's deep in guerrilla country, first of all, in southeastern Colombia. And it's a very dangerous road. It's a very only rock and gravel road that is not very much wider than 8 feet. So, if you imagine an American school bus, we're just about at 8 feet. So we were taking this thing, on the hairs and trims of, the edges of the road with, 1,000 to 2,000 foot drops, on the side. You're looking out the window. So that one was really spectacular and really incredible, just to say we conquered that road, because there was no other American school bus, like I said, going out there and experiencing that. And it's an adventure for any other overlander. If you want to take your vehicle, if you have a 4x4, smaller 4-door, you'll definitely be able to do it. And it's just an adventure because of everything you have to go through to get there.
Well, if you get to get a school bus there, you should be able to get there with pretty much anything else.
Exactly. If we did it, you guys can do it.
Amazing. Yeah.
And yeah, it really ended up being these roads where I just would never experience, or never got to experience, or never would have went on. What I would say if I didn't have the school bus, it would be the other one was the road from Chachapoya, Peru, to Cajamarca. It was the scariest. At that point, it was me and my producer, Max. We did a segment where we split off, and we had drove this bus up to 15,000 feet in the night. We did it at dark and at night. There were times on this road where, again, just like the trampoline of death, it may have been even smaller and tighter than the roads we experienced out there. 8 feet wide, that's it. The visibility at some points were down to 6 to 8 feet, and I'm literally, putting a Snapchat message to send back to my mom, dad, the girlfriend, and saying, "Hey guys, I hope you guys find the phone, because I don't know if we're going to be making out of this one." Because this one is
oh man,
it's going to be a tough one to get out of. I'm not even sure, as optimistic as I always am, and because there were other buses driving at night, and we'd have to figure out how to back up in the dark with all this fog and no visibility, and trying to squeeze through on the side of the road. It was, I think my cameraman was crying because we were taking shifts driving, and I would be sleeping, and he'd shake me, wake me up, like, "I can't do this anymore. You take the wheel, man. I'm not driving anymore."
Oh, wow.
And last but not least would be Laguna 69 outside of Juarez. It's a glacier lake, and you can take your vehicle all the way up to the top up there. It's, again, another place at 15,000 feet, and it's just simply spectacular.
Okay, great. Anything that we've missed, Brandon?
There's always a plan C and a plan D. It's never just an A and B. There's always a way around things. You guys are the creative individuals that are traveling and being adventurous. Don't stop. Use your adventure curiosity to your guys' advantage.
Great. Let's go through some basic necessities. How much water did you carry with you?
We only had one real big water jug. We didn't have any tanks, water tanks. So, we would fill up fresh water where we knew fresh water existed. Again, in South America, something to be very, very wary about. Like I said, a few of us got some parasites along the way. So we would carry, a few gallons with us, at least one or two at all times. But in South America, you're not going to have to worry. It's really going to depend on how long you're going to want to stay outside of civilization or out and about. But you won't really need to carry that much water.
Okay. And how much fuel were you able to carry, and how far did that take you?
These buses are tanks, so we had an 85-gallon tank. So, that 85 gallons at about 8 to 10 miles per gallon. So we were able to take this thing, a good ways. I get at least a good 500 miles on it, without the thing, running and burning fuel on its own. So we get about a good 500 miles, sometimes going places, sometimes not much better, depending on your reclining elevation. But yeah, it's about 500 miles. It'll be a good full tank of gas.
Did you have any challenges finding diesel that would work for your bus?
No, actually. And again, remember, guys, everything is negotiable outside the United States. Just be friendly about the negotiation. Don't demand anything. Even the gas is negotiable.
Perfect. Okay, good. What was your process for managing basic hygiene needs? Did you have a bathroom set up on the bus?
We did not have a bathroom, and I think that is kind of a trouble, an issue we're having with selling the vehicle in Chile, is that to be declared as an RV, because our bus is still said to be a bus on the title, it needs to have some kind of bathroom in it. So when we had a kitchen sink, where we had a gravity water fuel, a gravity water tank, let's say, it was basically a gas tank with water that would just swoop down and pump out through the sink. So we were able to get water into there. And then besides that, the rest of the toiletries, we had a built-in place for all those things. But, some days you went a day or two or maybe 3 without showering. Some people on the bus, I'm not going to name names, went a week, but we didn't have any issues in terms of managing the hygiene. The smells never got too bad.
Okay. Any musicians on the bus? Any musical instruments you guys played?
We carried a guitar, and a lot of people, we did pick up, would pop in a guitar. Patrick, who is definitely very music-minded. We did go someplace and they had a set of drums. I remember him playing some drums, freestyling some points. He was pretty good. Max has been in a band before, so Max is playing, could strum a guitar. We had that guitar going in there. Daniel and I, not in the musical minds. We're athletes. We'd be banging and scratching at a piece of musical equipment before we figure it out.
Okay, great. What was a favorite meal on the road?
Ooh, I didn't be in a favorite meal. That can of tuna. Just cracking it open, or taking the tuna out and then throwing it inside an avocado that you'd smash up, and the tomato maybe or onion, depending on our availability. And Pringles. Pringles definitely becomes and the consensus of every other traveler. We had Alex Chacon. He runs a motorcycle diary channel. We ran into him in the middle of nowhere, and he's like, "Yep, Pringles is my diet sometimes. Pringles is my only."
That's awesome. Tuna and Pringles.
Tuna and Pringles, man.
All right, Brandon, last 2 questions. What's a favorite drink in the morning to get you going?
Ooh, favorite meal. I like to start off with room temperature water, lemon and salt water to get the hormones and balance and to get rehydrated after any night's sleep. And then I'm just going with a big coffee or tea. So it's time to eat later in the day.
Very good. Wise man. What's a favorite drink at night to wind down after a long day on the road?
Ooh, I got a great one for all your listeners out there. It might be hard to get out there on the road, but it's a warm cup of water. You take 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar and a tablespoon of honey, and that will knock you out.
All right, perfect. All right, Brandon, how can people get in contact and follow you?
To follow me personally, you're going to find The Nomadic Bus Driver, and I'm going to be on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I'm very active in the spaces, and just like on the Bus Podcast, we're continuously and constantly looking to collaborate. Especially people in the digital nomad space. We're trying to plan another season in India, Russia, or Japan. Those are our next 3 potential options. We're working on building up some more funds to do that, but we believe in the shared and collaborative market. So if any listeners or anybody wants to get in touch, they want to work with us, they want to find out a way to start their own bus under the On the Bus Podcast Network, and they want their own channel, making videos, making a podcast, let's find a way to work together. Reach out, connect with me, and let's get on the bus.
That's great. Hey, Brandon, thank you so much for taking your time to join us today. It's been an absolute pleasure talking with you, and hopefully we run into you again sometime in the future.
I think we definitely will, Chris.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right, have a great day.
Cheers. All right, Lisa. This time we were talking to a athlete. So his favorite drinks in the morning and evening were a little bit different than what we're used to. Did that throw you off?
Yes, it did. Although I'm going to have to say I want to take his evening drink and add something a lot stronger to it to experience or tackle those roads.
Post navigation of the 2,000-foot drop with 1 inch to spare in a school bus?
Yes. I mean, we've done some roads, but which made me, lean into you, like help keep the vehicle on the road. But yeah, I'd have to have something way stronger than honey.
Yeah, those are some pretty good stories. So the what was it called again? The trampoline
of death. Yeah.
In Colombia?
Yes.
Sounds like a very sketchy place. I would not go without a lot of extra protection.
You bring the protection, I'll bring the
Which
drinks.
I don't think is legit. So I don't know that we'll be traveling down that road anyway. So.
Oh, I totally want to go now.
No.
Absolutely.
People making cocaine and doing different things.
Well,
Not
you don't
my
have
crowd.
to visit them.
Not my crowd.
We'll just find the next school bus.
Go in a different direction. All right, so keep in mind you can find all the show notes over at ghteoverland.com/podcast. Just click on the picture titled On the Bus Podcast. It's the only one with a guy driving a school bus, so it should stick out to you.
The bus driver.
Yep. And Brandon, thank you so much for taking the time. It was an edge of the seat kind of episode. Keep doing what you're doing, interviewing young adults, living out their dreams. That is really fantastic. We'd love it if you, our listeners, would connect with us on social media at GHT Overland and on Instagram, GHT Overland Podcast. But I think if you just type in GHT Overland, you will find us. And be sure to share the episode with some friends who enjoy travel off the beaten path.
Overland travel is all about meeting new friends, seeing the most amazing places on Earth, and of course, new food and new drinks.
We'd love to hear from you, so drop us an email at ghteoverlandpodcast@gmail.com.
Do you have a favorite drink or food recipe for overlanding? We'd love to feature it and you. Send them to ghteoverlandpodcast@gmail.com.
Hey, it's the same email. Convenient.
Yep, nice and easy to reach us. Before you race off, it would mean the world to us if you rate and review the podcast. Give GHT Overland a little podcast love so we can reach as many overlanders as possible. Thank you, and we will see you next Thursday for a brand new episode of the GHT Overland Podcast. Bye.
Let's go to Africa.
I want to go to Colombia.